Handcuff him! Hands up, now!
Officer, I've got him secured. He tried to kidnap a student.
He's the one! He attacked me! Step away, do it now!
You're making a mistake.
I'm the county sheriff. My badge is in my back pocket. Do not reach! Face down!
You're detaining the wrong man.
He's danger!
Let's go inside! Everybody inside!
Copy. Units en route.
Wrong man. Officer Philip Cole responded to a disturbance call at Central High School and immediately drew his weapon when he saw Cal Sullivan, a black man in civilian clothes, restraining a white man on the ground with blood on his face, completely ignoring the frantic students who screamed that Sullivan had just stopped a kidnapping. Cole ordered Sullivan to step away from the suspect, and when multiple witnesses shouted that Sullivan was a sheriff who had heroically prevented a teenage girl from being abducted, Cole refused to listen and arrested Sullivan anyway, believing the white kidnapper's lie that Sullivan had attacked him unprovoked, then released the actual predator without checking a single piece of evidence, despite his partner, Officer Jamie Chen, repeatedly urging him to verify the badge lying on the ground and check Sullivan's credentials first. Sullivan, a decorated sheriff with 14 years on the force and a spotless service record, spent 7 hours in a holding cell while the dangerous man he'd risked everything to stop walked free. All because Officer Cole's racism made it impossible for him to imagine a black man being the hero and a white man being the monster. What Cole didn't know is that Cal Sullivan was one of the county's most respected law enforcement officers, whose captain would see the viral video of his wrongful arrest within hours and unleash a storm of consequences that would expose not just Cole's prejudice, but the fact that he'd just released an FBI's most wanted serial child predator. Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where you're tuning in from. If you believe stopping a kidnapping shouldn't get you arrested when you're black, then like this video and subscribe. Sheriff Cal Sullivan pulled into the parking lot of Ridgewood Elementary School at exactly 1:15 p.m. on a crisp October afternoon with one clear purpose: inspire fourth graders to stay safe and trust law enforcement as part of the school's annual Stranger Danger Safety Week. At 38 years old, Sullivan had spent the last 14 years serving with the Ridgewood County Sheriff's Department, working his way up from deputy to sheriff, earning commendations for his work in community policing, solving dozens of cases ranging from property crimes to violent felonies, and becoming the officer that both black and white families in the community trusted without question. He had 0 complaints on his record, had been named Officer of the Year 3 times, and was often requested by name when schools needed someone to speak to their students. He was off regular patrol duties for the morning, enjoying a chance to connect with kids and remind them that police officers were there to protect them. Sullivan walked through the elementary school doors wearing civilian clothes, dark jeans, a burgundy pullover sweater and casual boots, because the school counselor had specifically asked him to dress down. The uniform can be intimidating to little ones, she'd explained. We want them to see you as a person first, an officer second. His sheriff's badge was clipped to his belt, visible but not prominent, and his service weapon remained secured in his patrol car, because elementary schools had strict policies about firearms on campus, even for law enforcement. He carried a duffel bag filled with coloring books about safety, sticker badges for the kids, and a presentation folder with photos of his daughters to share when he talked about why keeping children safe mattered so much to him. Sullivan smiled as he entered the 4th grade classroom, greeted by 24 eager faces and a banner that read, "Guest Speaker of the Month, Sheriff Cal Sullivan." The teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, introduced him warmly, and for the next 45 minutes Sullivan did what he loved most, connected with his community, answered earnest questions about what sheriffs do, explained why it's important to tell a trusted adult if a stranger makes you uncomfortable, and reminded every child in that room that they mattered and deserved to be protected. He took a photo of the banner with his phone and texted it to his wife Angela with a simple message: "Making a difference, one classroom at a time." She responded immediately with a heart emoji and the words, "That's my sheriff, don't forget to swing by Central High after. You promised to check on the new security system." Sullivan packed up his materials, high-fived every student on his way out, and headed to his patrol car, completely unaware that in less than 15 minutes his life would be turned upside down. His faith in the justice system he'd served for over a decade would be shattered, and he would come face to face with the brutal reality that his badge meant nothing against the color of his skin. The afternoon air carried that distinctive October chill as Sullivan drove the familiar route from Ridgewood Elementary to Central High School, his alma mater. He'd walked those hallways 20 years ago, played basketball in that gymnasium, graduated on that football field. Now he patrolled past it regularly, always keeping an extra eye on the school because he understood how vulnerable kids were, how quickly a normal day could turn dangerous, how predators looked for any opportunity to strike. He turned onto Oakwood Avenue, the street that ran alongside Central High's parking lot. The dismissal bell had rung 20 minutes ago, and students lingered in clusters, some waiting for rides, others heading to after-school activities, a few stragglers chatting by the bus loop. Sullivan slowed his patrol car to 15 miles per hour, his eyes automatically scanning the scene with the trained awareness of 14 years in law enforcement, checking for anything out of place, anyone who didn't belong, any situation that might require intervention. Everything looked normal, routine, safe. Then he heard the screams, not the playful shrieks of teenagers joking around, or the dramatic gasps of high school social dynamics. These were screams of genuine terror, the kind Sullivan's training had taught him to recognize instantly, the kind that activated every protective instinct he possessed, the kind that meant someone was in immediate danger and seconds mattered more than protocol. Sullivan's head snapped toward the sound. 50 yards ahead, near the far end of the parking lot, a burgundy van sat with its side door open. A man in his 40s, white, medium build, wearing a grey jacket, had his hand clamped over a teenage girl's mouth while his other arm wrapped around her torso, lifting her off the ground as he tried to force her into the vehicle. The girl's Central High volleyball uniform was torn at the shoulder, her backpack lay on the ground with its contents spilled across the asphalt, and her legs kicked frantically as she fought against her attacker with everything she had. 2 other students stood frozen 30 feet away, their mouths open in shock, their phones in their hands, but their bodies paralyzed by the horror unfolding in front of them. Sullivan's tactical mind processed the scene in microseconds. Active kidnapping in progress. No time to call for backup. No time to wait for additional units. If that girl goes into that van, she's gone forever. Statistics flooded his consciousness. Kidnapping victims who are transported to a second location have a 74% lower chance of survival. The window for intervention is measured in seconds, not minutes. He made the decision that would change everything. Sullivan hit his lights, threw the patrol car into park at an angle to block the van's escape route, and exploded out of the vehicle in one fluid motion, his 14 years of training compressed into pure instinct and muscle memory. "Sheriff's Department, let her go now." The kidnapper's head turned towards Sullivan's voice. His eyes, cold, calculating, predatory, assessed the situation with the practiced evaluation of someone who'd done this before. He saw a black man in civilian clothes running toward him. No visible uniform, no obvious weapon, and he made a fatal calculation. "I can finish this before he reaches me." He tightened his grip on the girl and shoved her harder toward the van's interior. That was his mistake. Sullivan closed the 40-foot distance in under 4 seconds, his body moving with the precision of countless defensive tactics training sessions, his mind operating in that crystalline state of hyper-focus that comes when lives hang in the balance. He targeted the kidnapper's left arm, the one controlling the girl's movement, and executed a perfect joint manipulation that forced the man to release his grip. The girl stumbled free, her screams now mixed with gasping sobs as she scrambled away toward the frozen witnesses. The kidnapper tried to swing at Sullivan with his right fist. Sullivan blocked it effortlessly, controlled the man's center mass with a grip on his jacket, and used the kidnapper's own momentum to take him to the ground in a controlled descent that minimized injury while maximizing control, exactly as the manual prescribed. 7 seconds. From the moment Sullivan left his patrol car to the moment he had the kidnapper prone on the asphalt with a knee on his back and the man's arm locked in a submission hold, exactly 7 seconds had elapsed. "You're under arrest for attempted kidnapping," Sullivan said, his voice steady despite his elevated heart rate. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As Sullivan recited the Miranda rights, the rescued girl collapsed into the arms of one of the frozen witnesses, who was now crying and frantically dialing 911. Other students emerged from the building, drawn by the commotion, their phones immediately rising to capture the scene. One student, Marcus Chen, a 17-year-old junior with 80,000 TikTok followers and an instinct for capturing viral moments, had been recording since he heard the first scream. His phone had captured everything: the kidnapping attempt, Sullivan's heroic intervention, the 7-second takedown, and now the aftermath as Sullivan calmly restrained the suspect and called for backup. Marcus's hands shook as he checked his phone. The livestream was already at 200,000 views and climbing. Comments flooded in. "Hero! That officer just saved her life. Share this everywhere." What Marcus didn't know, what nobody at Central High School knew in that moment, was that the man Sullivan had just stopped wasn't just any kidnapper. The face pressed against the asphalt, the hands now secured behind his back, belonged to Bobby Kelvin, whose real name was Robert Kellerman, and whose face was flagged in an FBI database 400 miles away in connection with the disappearances of 23 children across 3 states. Sullivan had just prevented victim number 24, but in less than 3 minutes, when Officer Philip Cole's patrol car screamed into the parking lot with lights flashing and sirens wailing, Sullivan's heroism would be twisted into criminality. His badge would mean nothing against Cole's prejudice, and the serial predator he'd risked everything to stop would walk free. The reckoning was 180 seconds away, and nobody, not Sullivan, not Cole, not the students recording everything on their phones, had any idea that this moment would become the flashpoint for a national conversation about racism, justice, and the deadly cost of bias in law enforcement. 30 minutes before everything changed, Sheriff Cal Sullivan stood in front of 24 fourth graders at Ridgewood Elementary, holding up a laminated card with a simple question: "What do you do if a stranger offers you candy to get in their car?" A forest of small hands shot up. Sullivan pointed to a girl in the front row with pigtails and missing front teeth. "You say no and run away and tell a teacher," she announced proudly. "Exactly right, Emma. You're already smarter than most adults." The class erupted in giggles. This was Sullivan's favourite part of the job. Not the arrests or the accolades, but these moments where he could plant seeds of safety in young minds. He'd been doing these presentations monthly for 6 years, always in civilian clothes, because Ms. Rodriguez, the 4th grade teacher, insisted uniforms made little ones nervous. His burgundy sweater and jeans made him approachable. The sheriff's badge clipped to his belt made him credible. For 45 minutes, Sullivan answered questions ranging from "Do you have a police dog?" to "Have you ever caught a bad guy?" He showed them photos of his daughters, Destiny, 8, and Maya, 11, and explained why protecting kids mattered so much to him. Every child in that room believed they could trust him. That was the reputation he'd built over 14 years. 0 complaints, 3 Officer of the Year awards, and the kind of respect that transcended race in a divided community. As the bell rang, Sullivan snapped a photo of the banner above the whiteboard, "Guest Speaker of the Month, Sheriff Cal Sullivan." He texted it to Angela. Her response came instantly: "That's my sheriff." He smiled, packed his materials, and headed for the door. Central High was his next stop, a quick drive past his alma mater to check on the new security system. His patrol car waited in the parking lot, his service weapon secured in the glove compartment per school policy. Sullivan had no idea he had 15 minutes left before his faith in the system would shatter. Sullivan turned onto Oakwood Avenue at 1:58 p.m., his patrol car cruising at 15 miles per hour past Central High's sprawling parking lot. Dismissal had ended 20 minutes ago. Students clustered near the bus loop, backpacks slung over shoulders, phones glowing in their hands. Everything looked normal, routine. Then he heard the screams, not the theatrical shrieks of teenage drama or the playful squeals of friends joking around. These were primal, terror-soaked screams, the kind Sullivan's 14 years of training had hardwired him to recognize in milliseconds, the kind that meant someone was fighting for their life. His head snapped left. 50 yards ahead, a burgundy van sat with its sliding door gaping open like a predator's mouth. A white man in his 40s, grey jacket, medium build, had both hands on a teenage girl in a Central High volleyball uniform. One hand clamped over her mouth, muffling her screams. The other wrapped around her torso, lifting her off the ground as he tried to shove her into the van's dark interior. The girl's backpack lay on the asphalt, its contents scattered. Textbooks, pens, a water bottle rolling toward a storm drain. Her legs kicked frantically, volleyball knee pads still strapped to her shins. She was fighting with everything she had. 30 feet away, 2 students stood frozen, mouths open, phones forgotten in their trembling hands. Sullivan's tactical mind processed the scene in nanoseconds. Active abduction. Transportation imminent. Statistics flooded his consciousness. Victims moved to secondary locations have a 74% lower survival rate. The window for intervention wasn't measured in minutes. It was measured in heartbeats. No time to call dispatch. No time to wait for backup. If that girl disappeared into that van, she was gone forever. Sullivan made the decision that would destroy his life to save hers. He acted. Sullivan's patrol car screeched to an angled stop, blocking the van's escape route. He exploded from the vehicle in one fluid motion. No hesitation, no second guessing. Just 14 years of training crystallizing into pure instinct. Sheriff's Department, let her go now. 40 feet separated them. Sullivan closed the distance in under 4 seconds, his boots pounding asphalt, his focus laser sharp on the kidnapper's positioning. The man's head whipped toward Sullivan's voice. His eyes, cold, calculating, predatory, assessed the threat. Black man in civilian clothes, no visible uniform, no drawn weapon. Bobby Kelvin made his fatal calculation. I can finish this. He tightened his grip on the girl and shoved her harder toward the van's interior. Sullivan didn't slow down. He targeted Kelvin's left arm, the one controlling the girl's movement, and executed a textbook joint lock that forced the fingers to release. The girl stumbled free, gasping and sobbing as she scrambled toward the frozen witnesses. Kelvin swung wildly with his right fist. Sullivan blocked it, secured Kelvin's jacket at center mass, and used the man's own momentum to guide him to the ground in a controlled descent. No excessive force, no unnecessary injury, just perfect technique. 7 seconds. From car door to control hold, 7 seconds flat. Sullivan dropped his knee onto Kelvin's back, locked the man's arm behind him in a submission hold, and began the familiar recitation. You're under arrest for attempted kidnapping. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. His voice remained steady, professional, calm. He had no idea the man beneath him was wanted by the FBI in connection with 23 missing children across 3 states. He had no idea he'd just stopped victim number 24. Sullivan keyed his radio with his free hand, his knee still firmly planted on Kelvin's back. Dispatch, this is Sheriff Sullivan, badge 2847. I have a suspect in custody for attempted kidnapping, Central High School parking lot. Request backup and EMS for evaluation of a minor. Copy that, Sheriff. Units en route. ETA 3 minutes. The girl he'd saved, Madison Pierce, though Sullivan didn't know her name yet, collapsed into the arms of one of the previously frozen witnesses. Her phone pressed to her ear, she sobbed into it. Mom, I'm okay. He tried to grab me. A sheriff stopped him. 30 feet away, Marcus Chen stood with his phone raised high, hands trembling but steady enough to capture everything. His TikTok live stream had already hit 200,000 views. His fingers flew across the screen, adding a caption. Sheriff stops kidnapping at our school, #hero, #Central High. Other students emerged from the building, drawn by the commotion. They circled Sullivan and his suspect, their voices overlapping. Oh my God, did you see that? He saved Madison. That was insane. He just took that guy down. Is she okay? Madison, are you okay? Bobby Kelvin lay silent beneath Sullivan's control, his face pressed against the cold asphalt. But his mind raced through calculations, possibilities, escape routes. He'd been in tight situations before. The key was staying calm, saying nothing, waiting for an opportunity. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Sullivan felt his adrenaline beginning to ebb, replaced by the familiar satisfaction of a job well done. Another child safe, another predator caught, another day of living up to the badge. He had no idea what was about to happen. Officer Philip Cole's cruiser screamed into the parking lot, lights flashing. Cole stepped out, his hand already moving toward his weapon. He saw exactly what he expected to see. A black man in street clothes holding down a white civilian in distress. Officer Philip Cole's boots hit the pavement with the confidence of a man who already knew the story. His hand rested on his holstered weapon as he surveyed the scene with 12 years of ingrained assumptions. Black male in civilian clothes, white male on the ground, blood trickling from his nose, diverse group of teenagers standing around with phones out. His partner, Officer Jamie Chen, 8 months on the force, still learning to trust her instincts over her training officer's commands, followed 2 steps behind. Cole saw exactly what he expected to see. He didn't see Sullivan's badge lying on the asphalt near the patrol car, knocked loose during the takedown. He didn't see Sullivan's calm, controlled positioning, textbook restraint technique. He didn't see Madison Pierce sobbing into her phone. He tried to grab me, Mom. The sheriff saved me. Step away from him now. Cole's weapon cleared its holster, the barrel trained on Sullivan's center mass. Sullivan's pulse spiked, but his voice remained steady, 14 years of de-escalation training overriding his fear. Officer, I'm Sheriff Cal Sullivan, Ridgewood County. My badge is on the ground near my vehicle. This man attempted to kidnap a minor. I have him in custody. Cole's expression didn't change. He processed only the narrative that fit his worldview. The witnesses erupted in a chorus of desperate voices. He saved her! That guy tried to grab Madison. Check his badge. He's a sheriff. You got the wrong guy. Cole's jaw tightened. I said step away, hands where I can see them. The moment stretched into agony as Sullivan realized the truth. This officer wasn't going to listen. His badge meant nothing against Cole's prejudice. 14 years of spotless service, erased by the color of his skin. Sullivan made the decision to comply, to de-escalate, to survive. He still believed the truth would prevail. I'm releasing the suspect now. My hands are coming up slowly. Sullivan raised his hands, palms open, moving with deliberate care. Beneath him, Bobby Kelvin's lips curved into the faintest smile. Officer Chen spotted the badge near Sullivan's patrol car. She picked it up, turned it over in her hands, her brow furrowing. Cole, he's really a sheriff. Badge is legit. Ridgewood County, badge number 2847. Cole didn't even glance at it. Any criminal can buy a fake badge online. Cuff him. The handcuffs bit into Sullivan's wrists as Officer Chen secured them. Not roughly, but firmly. Her hands trembled slightly. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Cole's entire demeanor shifted as he turned to Bobby Kelvin. His voice softened, became almost solicitous. Sir, are you all right? Do you need medical attention? Kelvin recognized the gift he'd been handed. He touched his bleeding nose gingerly, his face contorting into a mask of victimized innocence. He attacked me. I was just asking that girl if she needed a ride. It's cold out, and he came out of nowhere and assaulted me for no reason. Madison Pierce's scream cut through the parking lot. That's a lie. He grabbed me. He put his hand over my mouth. He tried to put me in his van. Cole barely glanced at her. You're clearly traumatized, miss. We'll get your statement later when you've calmed down. Officer Chen pulled Kelvin's driver's license from his wallet, her discomfort evident in the tightness around her eyes. Robert Kelvin, local address in Millbrook. She keyed her radio. Dispatch. Warrant check on Robert Kelvin. Date of birth November 12, 1981, Ohio license. While they waited, Sullivan tried once more, his voice steady despite the rage building in his chest. Officer, I'm asking you to detain this man until my department can verify my identity. Please check with Ridgewood Sheriff's Department. Captain Robert Morris can confirm. You don't get to make requests. Cole's voice was flat, final. The radio crackled. No active warrants on Robert Kelvin, Ohio driver's license. What dispatch didn't know, what the local database couldn't tell them, was that Bobby Kelvin maintained multiple identities across 3 states. The FBI's multi-state warrant was filed under his primary alias, Robert Kellerman. The system had failed before Cole even made his decision. Mr. Kelvin, you're free to go, Cole announced. If you want to press charges against this individual for assault, we can help you with that. Officer Chen's voice rose slightly, uncertainty cracking through protocol. Cole, shouldn't we at least hold him until we verify the sheriff's... Are you questioning my judgment, Chen? Cole's eyes locked on his rookie partner with the weight of rank and consequence. She fell silent. Bobby Kelvin, wanted in connection with 23 missing children, walked calmly to his burgundy van. The side door was still open. He closed it with a soft click, climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. Sullivan watched in horror as the van's taillights brightened. "You just let a kidnapper go free. When this comes out, and it will, you're finished." Cole leaned in close, his breath hot against Sullivan's ear. "Is that a threat? Because I'll add threatening an officer to your charges." Cell number 6 at Millbrook Police Department smelled like industrial cleaner and despair. Sheriff Cal Sullivan sat on the concrete bench, his wrist still aching from the handcuffs, and stared at walls he'd walked past dozens of times during training seminars and inter-agency coffee breaks. This was the precinct where his reputation had been impeccable, where officers from neighboring jurisdictions knew his name, respected his record, trusted his judgment. Now he was inmate processing number 24-10-17-0063. Mugshot. Fingerprints. Personal effects confiscated and catalogued. Wallet, keys, wedding ring, phone. The booking officer, Sergeant Tom Riley, a 20-year veteran with grey at his temples and laugh lines around his eyes, had frozen mid-process when he saw Sullivan's face. "Cal, what the hell is going on?" Sullivan had explained everything. The kidnapping attempt, the takedown, Cole's arrival, the wrongful arrest, Kelvin walking free. Riley had listened, his expression darkening with each sentence. He'd looked down at Cole's paperwork, then back at Sullivan. "This is Jesus, Cal. I'm going to call your captain right now." But protocol was protocol. Until the charges were reviewed, Sullivan remained in custody. Now, alone in cell 6, Sullivan's mind raced through implications that made his stomach turn. Bobby Kelvin was free, probably miles away by now, putting distance between himself and Central High. A predator hunting for his next victim because a racist cop couldn't see past his prejudice. Sullivan thought of his daughters, Destiny and Maya, 8 and 11, who believed their father was a hero, who trusted that police officers protected people, who had faith in a system that had just handcuffed their father for doing exactly what he'd taught them was right. How did he explain this? The phone call to Angela was the most painful conversation of his life. "Baby, I need you to call Captain Morris. I've been arrested." Silence, then confusion in her voice. "What? Cal, what are you talking about?" He explained. Heard her confusion transform into anger, then into the kind of fear that comes when you realize the world doesn't work the way you thought it did. "I'm getting our lawyer," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm calling Morris right now. We'll fix this, Cal. We'll fix this." But Sullivan knew the truth that she hadn't accepted yet. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed back to what they were. Marcus Chen's hands still shook as he uploaded the video to TikTok. His caption was simple, devastating. "Sheriff stops kidnapping. Racist cop arrests him instead. #Justice for Sheriff Sullivan." The footage was raw, unedited, damning. 7 minutes and 43 seconds of injustice captured in 1080p. Sullivan's textbook takedown of Kelvin. The witnesses shouting praise. Madison sobbing about her near abduction. Officer Cole ignoring everything. The badge on the ground, the frantic teenagers, the victim herself. Sullivan being forced into handcuffs while Bobby Kelvin walked free. Within 2 hours, 400,000 views. Within 4 hours, 2 million views and climbing. Local news stations picked it up, leading their evening broadcasts with decorated sheriff arrested after stopping kidnapping. Within 6 hours, national news networks were running the story. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Every major outlet replaying Marcus's video alongside breaking news banners. Central High School's administration, terrified of liability lawsuits, made a calculated decision. They released their security camera footage to the media. 4K resolution, multiple angles, audio crystal clear. The security footage showed everything Marcus's phone had missed. The initial approach, Kelvin's hand clamping over Madison's mouth, her desperate struggle. Sullivan's sprint across the parking lot, the 7-second takedown executed with surgical precision. Legal analysts on cable news dissected every frame. A former prosecutor on CNN stated flatly, "This is a textbook case of racial profiling that resulted in the release of an alleged kidnapper." Officer Cole ignored every protocol, every piece of evidence, and every witness statement. Social media exploded like a digital wildfire. Hashtag Justice for Sheriff Sullivan trended nationally within 3 hours, accumulating 500,000 posts. Hashtag find. Bobby Kelvin emerged as amateur detectives mobilized. Twitter users freeze-framed the security footage, enhancing the license plate. Ohio plate, Echo Victor 6287. Crime scene analysts, retired FBI agents and keyboard warriors descended on every detail. Someone identified the van's make and model. Someone else pulled DMV records. A Reddit thread titled "Who is Bobby Kelvin?" accumulated 10,000 comments in 2 hours. At 7:23 p.m., a Twitter user with cybersecurity credentials posted a discovery. Bobby Kelvin's social security number was issued in 2019. He's using a fresh identity. This guy has a history. Another user cross-referenced Kelvin's physical descriptors, age, build, distinguishing features, with missing persons databases across 3 states. At 8:47 p.m., 5 hours after Sullivan's arrest, a Reddit user posted a comparison photo that stopped the internet cold. Bobby Kelvin matches FBI's description of Robert Kellerman, wanted for questioning in 23 child disappearances across Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. The truth was out, and it was accelerating toward Officer Philip Cole like a freight train with no brakes. At 9:15 p.m., the viral video hit 8 million views and landed on the phone of Captain Robert Morris, Sullivan's commanding officer at Ridgewood County Sheriff's Department. Morris watched the entire 7 minutes and 43 seconds in his home office, his jaw clenched tighter with each passing frame. He recognized his best officer face down in handcuffs, recognized the injustice, recognized the catastrophe. He made 3 phone calls. First, to his counterpart at Millbrook PD, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "You have my sheriff in custody on bullshit charges, release him. Now." Second, to the FBI field office. "You need to see this video. The man Officer Cole released is Bobby Kelvin. Cross-reference Robert Kellerman." Third, to Internal Affairs. "We have a situation that's about to become national news. I need you on this immediately." By 10 p.m., Sullivan was released without charges. Captain Morris met him at the precinct entrance, his face a mixture of fury and regret. "Cal, I'm sorry. This should never have happened." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "You stopped a serial predator. FBI confirms Bobby Kelvin is Robert Kellerman. He's wanted in connection with 23 missing children across 3 states. Because of you, he didn't get number 24. Sullivan should have felt triumph, vindication, relief. Instead, he felt only exhaustion, the bone-deep weariness of a man whose faith had been shattered and poorly glued back together. By midnight, an FBI bolo went nationwide for Bobby Kelvin/Robert Kellerman, armed and dangerous, wanted for multiple counts of child abduction and murder. 14 hours later, Pennsylvania State Police arrested Kellerman at a gas station 200 miles from Central High. He'd been attempting to flee toward the Canadian border. His burgundy van contained a go bag with $47,000 cash, 3 fake IDs, and a laptop that would later reveal connections to a trafficking network spanning 5 states. Madison Pierce gave a statement to federal prosecutors that would anchor the kidnapping charge. Her words clear, her memory precise, her courage unshakable. Officer Philip Cole was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Officer Jamie Chen provided a detailed statement to Internal Affairs, documenting every moment Cole had overruled her concerns, ignored evidence, and dismissed witness testimony. Her Bodycam footage, which Cole had conveniently forgotten to activate until after Sullivan was already in handcuffs, still captured enough audio to corroborate everything. The witnesses shouting, Madison crying about her abduction attempt, Sullivan's calm explanation, Cole's dismissive responses. 3 weeks later, the findings were released. Cole was terminated and faced criminal charges: false arrest, dereliction of duty, and obstruction of justice for releasing a wanted fugitive. He would eventually plead guilty to reduced charges, receiving a 2-year suspended sentence and permanent revocation of his law enforcement certification. Officer Chen, after cooperating fully with investigators, received additional de-escalation training and remained on the force. Her career would recover. Cole's never would. The viral video reached 25 million views. Sheriff Cal Sullivan became the reluctant face of a national conversation about racial profiling in law enforcement. Invitations poured in: testify before Congress, consult on police reform initiatives, speak at law enforcement conferences across the country. He accepted some, declined others. But when he did speak, his message was consistent and unflinching. I did everything right, and it almost destroyed me. I followed every protocol, executed a textbook intervention, saved a child's life, and I was handcuffed and thrown in a cell while the predator walked free. The system didn't protect me. The internet did. We need to fix that. Sullivan remained a sheriff, but he was no longer the idealist who believed the badge would shield him from prejudice. He was an advocate now, pushing for reform from within, carrying the weight of knowledge that shouldn't have required his own suffering to obtain. And every time he saw Madison Pierce, who graduated Central High with honors 2 years later and enrolled in criminal justice courses at Ohio State, he was reminded that 7 seconds of courage had saved a life and exposed a system's deepest failures. Bobby Kelvin, whose real name was Robert Kellerman, sat in a federal detention center awaiting trial on 47 charges related to 23 missing children and 1 count of attempted kidnapping. His laptop had led investigators to a trafficking network that operated across 5 states. 8 additional arrests followed. 12 missing children were recovered alive. Officer Philip Cole's name became a cautionary tale in law enforcement training academies nationwide. His mugshot appeared in textbooks under chapters titled "When Bias Blinds Justice." He lost his badge, his pension, and his reputation. He would never wear a uniform again. Sheriff Cal Sullivan received the FBI's Public Service Award and his department's highest honor in a ceremony attended by law enforcement officials from across the country. The plaques would hang in his office, but the award he treasured most was a handwritten note from Madison Pierce, framed on his desk at home. "Thank you for seeing me when others would have looked away. You saved my life. Now I'm going to spend mine making sure no one else has to go through what you did. Love, Madison." Madison's mother, Sarah Pierce, established the Sullivan Foundation for School Safety Awareness, with Cal as honorary chairman. The foundation trained students and teachers to recognize predatory behavior and provided self-defense courses to teenagers across Ohio. Marcus Chen's viral video became required viewing at police academies in 37 states, part of a training module titled "When Bias Blinds Justice: The Sullivan Case Study." Sullivan still patrolled Ridgewood, still visited elementary schools, though now his presentations included harder truths about how the system sometimes failed, even those sworn to protect it. Still believed in protecting the innocent, but he also knew the cost of that protection when you wore the wrong skin in the right uniform, and he was determined to make sure the next officer who did the right thing didn't pay the price he did. The fight wasn't over. It had only just begun.